All right, Kiss Army, welcome to the KissFAQ Podcast. Thank you for giving us your time today and letting us into your head. I hope we don't do any damage. We hope that you enjoy. Today, which really sucks. Welcome to episode 347 of the KissFAQ Podcast. I'm your host, Julian Gill, admin on the message board, and I'm really tired, so I apologize if I'm not chirpy. I don't even have a beer. Boo. Joined today by Marcus Almighty Mark and 69th Blizzard Ken. And
Hello.
Two of our guys are missing because life comes first before podcasting and fun. But there we go. I will actually steal Lonnie's homework because I didn't do any myself. So I think he did his ranking, so I will just take Lonnie's and present them as my own. But before we get into the rankings, let's go through some of the news from the week. Paul Stanley did his town hall today, which I didn't watch or haven't seen. I think it was on Sirius XM, which I don't have. So therefore I missed it. I did not miss the feature in the San Diego Rag, which called out the KissFAQ, which drove me up the wall. It set me off. Well, it quoted from threads from 2019 with negative comments before anyone had heard a single thing from Paul's album. And then it presented a link to a thread that was current, that was overwhelmingly positive from people after they had heard stuff from the album. So I was furious. I was like, how can you do this? This is like so tabloidish to do that, to say this is what people on the KissFAQ are saying. Yeah, and they said it in 2019, stupidly, without having heard it. But, I mean, why would you feed the trolls? You know,
exactly.
The comment Paul made to that being presented was that if you're not into it, he's not going to go out of his way to change your mind if you prejudged it beforehand, which I can take or leave as an argument. I mean, yeah, there are going to be people who just bash on him because they don't get it and because it's not a Kiss album. But to then say, well, I'm not interested in trying to persuade you, as an artist, you should always want to say why you want people to at least give it a chance and say, hey, I've got these singles out now. Go and listen to them. If you still feel that way, well, at least you have, sampled from the buffet. Don't just give them an easy out to say, I'm not trying it because I don't think you'll do a good job. Prove it, and maybe they'll still bash on him. That's fine. And at which point, it doesn't really matter. It's just a shame. The article also said that he was in a 1999 Broadway touring version of Phantom of the Opera, which was not true.
That's not.
It did not go on tour. It wasn't Broadway. It was Pantages or whatever it is, theater in Toronto, I think it was. So it was the closing of the theater as well, not Broadway.
Pantages.
Contagious,
it was
Pantages.
A short run in Canada. That's all it was. So the other, you're saying about people not listening to it, and Paul saying, okay, well, whatever. I think, he should have said something. At least listen to it. I wrote some. I wrote some songs for this. If you like my my writing, the songs I write, you might enjoy it. Just take a little listen.
Yeah, go on Spotify. You don't have to pay.
Exactly.
And 2 singles are up there, and another one's dropping tomorrow. The one that dropped early and got pulled back, which is one of the songs that he wrote, which is absolutely outstanding. So as a song, it is incredible. It is really, really good. And I've heard from people who have heard it, because I've not been granted access to the advanced stream for some odd reason. People who have heard it have sung the praises of the songs that he has written for this. So I would say to Paul, don't let people off the hook with cop-outs of, I'm not going to persuade you. You've got 5 new songs on there. Go and check them. Go and check them out. Give them a chance. Yep. And if you still don't like them, fine. Because you know what? I don't like broccoli. And no matter how many times I try, I'm not going to like broccoli. So, Mark, should someone try your music, or should they just bash you beforehand?
Well, I've been fortunate so far. Most people have give it a try. And you have the basher here and there, right? But I always say the same thing. Not everybody is meant to like the same things. If you like it, great. If you don't like it, then that's fine too. But usually I find that once people do give it a chance, most people seem to like it. I mean, what I find interesting is I go on these live streams sometimes, and the person whose live stream I'm on will mention the record or mention a record. I'll hold up a record, say, hey, I got Mark's record like 2 weeks ago. And then I'll get like 2 or 3 orders from people where somebody's saying, yeah, you know what, after I listened to this so-and-so stream, I went on your Bandcamp and checked it out. And it's pretty good. So sometimes people need a little bit of encouragement. It's like they don't want to be the first ones to go there. It's like, as long as Bob here goes first and he likes it, then I'm going to give it a shot. Sometimes that kind of happens. It's like a follow the leader thing sometimes, right?
Yeah, so I'm not going to rant about that review mentioning the FAQ. That's a little bit different to certain other podcasts mentioning the cesspit, because it was just taken so far out of context that it really grinds my gears. What else? Shout it out loud. New single. Ken, you bought it. Why don't you tell us about it?
I bought it. It was surprising. A couple days ago, 2-3 days ago. Kiss Online, put out that they had Shout Out Loud collection. I guess celebrating the anniversary of the single. And it's on a nice looking, I think orange colored vinyl.
Of course.
Yeah, and with a nice picture sleeve.
Yeah. I bought it too. Surprise.
Yeah. So, and it comes to, you can get a bundle, a few more things, like T-shirt and hat and so on. But it's cool that they did something a little bit different. So yeah, I'm not necessarily a single collector. Sometimes I have
get
some.
Your email?
I didn't get the email. Probably
I got my email.
A bundle. See, I bought a bundle.
Probably that's why. Because I got my email saying that they have sent my single already. So
yeah.
Should be getting it any time now.
Yeah, so they're probably sending mine all together because maybe they don't have the the shirt or whatever yet. But that's fine. It'll probably be not too long of a wait. I'm not worried about it. But yeah, it's cool that they got something else out, and they're going to continue, I guess, this trend.
Now I'm curious. The people who are doing the single, are they a different company than what's doing the Kiss Killers thing? I'm guessing they're 2 different entities.
I don't know, but I would assume that they're different pressing plans. But I don't know. They're both distributed through Universal, but I don't know if one is in Europe and one's here.
I'm just shocked that the single is already done and on its way out. That's like what I was most shocked about. The Killers thing was announced way earlier, and there's still no news about when that's coming. So,
well, I think the Killers one was supposed to ship around the 16th. I want to say the 16th or 19th of this month, something like that.
Oh yeah, okay, well that's good.
That's according to the website that I ordered it from.
You ordered it?
Or you ordered it?
I just didn't read. I just didn't read the website.
Yeah, Julian, to save shipping costs, Julian offered to order mine too, and I paid him back.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was killer. My shipping costs were like unbelievable. I could have ordered another record at another store. Like it was that much.
Oh yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and also when you double up, there's hope that one arrives in good condition with no corner nicks. I saw someone who ordered a bunch. I think it was the Ace records in Australia, and every single one of them arrived dinged. So it's
nice.
Yeah, I do hope that they package it properly. Yeah, you know what? The single has the Danish cover from 1976, obviously. I think it had the British pressing, EMI pressing inside it, because I think it had CBX 516 as the matrix number. Loser, knowing that off the top of your head.
Wow.
Yeah. So I did not order. No interest whatsoever about getting back into any of that. I'm actually meaning to list all my Metal Hammer colored vinyl singles. I
those.
want, yeah, get rid of those, and got to start getting rid of my vinyl because it's just I'm done. I want it gone. So, but it's nice that they're doing it, even though it doesn't interest me. And I did see a video today on Facebook of the pressing plant doing the
Yes.
orange. You know, I think orange must be the cheapest color.
I don't think it is though. I mean, from every time I went into colored pressing, they never told me that there was any difference in cost. But you would think that the amount of times that Kiss has done the orange, maybe they got some kind of special reduced rate. This is our last bag of these orange pellets. You want it, Kiss? You know?
Yeah.
Yes, the popularity of orange is probably not as much as like a red or a blue or something like
Yeah.
that. Therefore, they may have had there's a lot of stock and give them a deal or something.
And I can't remember
Possible.
where I read it that colored vinyl is not less quality than black vinyl. It just wears faster.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, the thing is, my dad used to work at like he used to repair injection molding machines, which, as you know, do a lot of these pressings, right? And I used to go with them all the time, and they used to say that the colored vinyl actually sometimes was better in audio quality because they never used any of the regrind from it. Like the black ones, when they would trim it, they would take it, put it into a regrinder, and then later on down the line, if they were short on stuff, they would use the regrind, put it in, and mix it up, and make more records from it. But they would never do it with the colored ones because they just didn't like how it was after they got regrind a lot of the time. So they would just only use the virgin material for that. So a lot of the times they were saying that the color ones actually sounded good. Now, whether they do wear faster, that's possible. I don't have any evidence to the contrary on that. So you could be right.
All right, so let's get into today's topic. And I did want to say, Mark, your CD arrived the other day. I can't remember if I mentioned that to you. So
Oh, good.
I was very happy that happened. We're going to finish up our MVP album rankings because we ran out of time last week. You know, having 5 people on the show, we just kind of went around. So because Lonnie's not here, I'm going to use his if they agree with me for the last couple of albums because I haven't even looked. We decided to add in the box set because we'd ignored that and just figure, go disc by disc on it and who's the MVP of each disc in the box set. So why don't we go back to 2001 to Happier Days and start with disc 1 from the box. Mark, why don't we start with you?
Well, I gave it a bit of a think again for this, but what I put as the MVP were Kerner and Weiss. And the reason why I put them as the MVP is because when you take a good solid look at this disc, I mean, besides the Strutter demo and the Deuce one, a lot of the stuff that's on here has their involvement in it, right? I mean, a lot of the things that are on here, like those first album and second album tracks, that's all them. I mean, some of the demos I think too weren't some of the Bell Sound stuff with them as well. Like I remember reading somewhere that I thought that they were involved with that somehow, weren't they? Like telling them to just go through their whole catalog of stuff, and then they chose from the whole bunch of songs that they had.
Yeah, but they didn't produce it. They just recorded it.
I'm just saying that, but their involvement with the material, I think, was pretty substantial. I mean, I heard a great interview. I'm sure you guys must have heard it too. That Mitch LaFon did with Kerner and those guys, where they talked about the fact that Kerner was involved with the arrangement of the track listing. All those kind of things. He went over the lyrics with the guys, and Weiss was more involved with the audio side of things, the actual audio production of it. So they went into great detail about what they did on those first 2 records, especially, and even the prep work on it. So for me, when I kind of look at this first disc, I see a lot of their involvement in there. So, that's why I kind of listed them on there. I mean, I understand Ken's selection, which I'm sure he can talk about next.
Ken.
Oh, so that was my lead-in. Yeah, so I chose Eddie Kramer because the demos are a big deal for Kiss, obviously, and that was what was sent over to Neil Bogart or Casablanca to check out. So that's a big stepping stone, and the demos are pretty. They're real cool. They're cool versions of the songs that are a little bit different here and there. That actually I wish some of it they would have kept. So I'm thinking that maybe Kerner and Wise had them trim some of the cool stuff that I liked in the original demos out. So I'm gonna nix you there a little bit, Mark. But there's a lot of other stuff on here too on the first disc, which is cool. But just based on the importance, I guess, of those original demos that Eddie Kramer produced, recorded, or whatever. That's the big thing for me. So Eddie Kramer.
It's absolutely criminal that they did not include the full 5-song demo. They just put the same bloody tracks on that they'd already released a multitude of times by then. I'm going to say the MVP of Disc 1 is Wicked Lester. Because when those came out, remastered, and that sort of clarity, for all the other versions that circulated, better has come out since then, and we're as good as that. For all the versions, with the exception of the first recordings, aka the demo, even though Paul says no demo was recorded, the clarity of those just blew me away. So Wicked Lester wins this disc. Nearly gave it to Paul for having the audacity to put that song on. Because that's just pure embarrassment when it's sequenced right next to Lita. So here is a young Paul Stanley, and then here's a young Paul McCartney. Gene Simmons.
Yeah.
The difference between the two was very vast at that point compared to where they kind of later fell. All right, let's move on. Disc 2, because neither of the other guys put up their rankings. So Andrew and Lonnie, I can't speak to yours. Disc 2, Mark.
Well, for this one, I had a real hard time. So I kind of pulled a Ken on this one, and I awarded this one to Kiss, because when you take a look at actually all the tracks on here, the band itself are really involved. Well, they're obviously involved in it, but I think their performances on these tracks are really fantastic. The live tracks that are on here are all great, versions of it. Cold Gin, Rock Bottom, Come On and Love Me, and all that stuff. And the demos, they're interesting stuff. But for someone like me, when I was getting back into Kiss again, I didn't hear some of this stuff before. I never got deep into the whole demos and early unreleased tracks until much, much later in my, Kiss fandom there. So, hearing like Mad Dog and Don't You Hesitate and stuff like that, I was kind of like, oh, that's cool. That's cool. I never heard this before. But, you have representation of everybody on here. You have Beth, you have, Hard Luck Woman, Peter on here. So I think really this disc is probably one of the best ones that shows the power of Kiss as a band as a whole, because I think that a lot of the times, later on, you start seeing that there was a lot of stuff that they did separately and there was no involvement with other people on it. I think at least back at this time, there was probably a little bit more involvement with the other guys in it, right, than there was a much later on in the, in the career of the band. So, but while there are some great things on here, there are also some, head scratching ones like Bad Loving. It's like, wow, that's yeet. But anyways, but it's historically they're all important tracks, I think.
All right, Ken.
Okay. So like Mark, I pulled a Ken also. Oh, wait a minute. I am Ken. There's the live stuff. I think I went for a live. I thought I picked Kiss as a band too. So that's on here, and it's just them working together as coming to a nice tight group in this period of time as a band, still a hungry band. So I put Kiss. I didn't give it to one or the other, band member or producer or anything like that. So I agree with Mark that it's Kiss as a group.
I disagree with you both. It's Paul Stanley on the strength of Don't You Hesitate, which I had not heard when this came out. I know it did circulate, but that was new to me. Mad Dog was new to me. And then, of course, the demo of God of Thunder and the demo of Mr. Speed. So three of those are Paul's. And on the strength of those, plus the Love Gun demo officially getting released, Paul wins easily, because Gene's stuff on here is obviously Bad Bad Loving, which I'd had for years. So it was uninteresting. Love is Blind, which I'd had for years. Yeah. So, Paul. And just to know that those are the Magnographic demos from, that predate Bob Ezrin and Destroyer. So we know now, especially from the Vault as well, that they have pristine copies of those. So how about putting them all out?
Yes.
That would be really nice, even though some of the songs are as bad they're worse than Mad Dog.
Yeah.
Or, from Mark's perspective, worse than Bad Bad Loving. So... But other than that, it was a good disc. It was actually the winner for me because of Don't You Hesitate. So, all right, let's move on. Disc 3. Oh, now it gets interesting because it's very difficult, because there just wasn't that much new stuff on this one. So I think because this is like the greatest hits from 1976 to 82, I'm gonna have to go with Vinnie Vincent for the winner, because right at the end of this you have his contributions to the band and the big change over in era. Mark.
Well, what I put down, I should have actually put one other thing on there, because I put down Casablanca Records, but what I should have put down is Casablanca / Phonogram Records, because in my opinion, when you look at all this stuff here, I mean, this is all due to them, I think, in my opinion. I mean, the Live 2 stuff and the solo record stuff. I mean, Neil Bogart and Casablanca dumped so much money behind these guys to do these solo records and these live albums. And then they did the double platinum came out and all this stuff. This era is all about money pumping from the record label, I think. I mean, when you look at this stuff, and then when you think about the other stuff that came out later, like, the Dynasty era and Unmasked and all that, Phonogram had taken over by that point, started taking over the reins from, Casablanca when he started getting out of it. So again, they gave Kiss one of the biggest, record contracts ever for a band, showing their confidence in them, probably because they were the only rock band that they probably had that were decent at the time. So they gave them large money, and they really got behind them, and the material that we got at that time was here, and I guess Kiss felt confident to move forward with that because of their, big huge contract and the big pat on the back from Phonogram and those guys, and this is what we got during that time period. I think they had a lot to do with this whole era. I mean, a lot of the promotion and all that stuff. I mean, look at all the things that we got, like all the merchandise and all that stuff. It's crazy. So I give it to them.
Just thinking about merch, and I actually bought some pop culture merchandise today from Walmart. Yeah, I got this thing called Bop It, a Baby Yoda Bop It.
Oh, Baby Yoda.
To put on my desk when I'm stressed out. So, Ken, what's your pick for the third disc?
Well, I picked... Mark, you picked Casablanca, right?
Yeah, and Phonogram, yeah.
Okay. Well, I would. The thing is, with Casablanca, why the heck then did they use the Creatures of the Night remix on this disc? I was like, what the heck did they do that for? But anyway, otherwise,
Phonogram did that though, didn't they?
Okay, Phonogram.
That time
they took over, right? So I'm gonna blame them for that. I picked Gene on this one. I don't know.
Because that's what you do.
Because I'm on, Team Gene.
Team Gene there.
So I had to pick Gene. So for great songs like "Larger Than Life" that he pulled off in this period, and "Radioactive Demo." Yeah, why didn't they just use the regular radioactive? I don't know. On this, and then the Creature stuff. The Elder, World Without Heroes, but I don't know why they didn't put on Only You, for instance, on here. I don't understand that, unless that's on our disc. I can't remember now. But War Machine, definitely. fantastic, and I love it loud. Those are just big Gene staples during this period. So, actually, those two songs go with Larger Than Life. Pretty much, they're three big songs, really big, cool songs.
So they're big, like gymnasiums.
Gymnasium, right? Exactly. So I picked Gene. What the heck?
Technically, we should have picked Ace with Rocket Ride, New York Groove, and Talk to Me.
True. Well, two out of those three.
Interesting that the solo singles, only one of the band members was changed, with Paul switching from Hold Me, Touch Me to Tonight You Belong to Me, and Ace's is still the same as the 7-inch, same with Gene and Peter. So that was just a random
Paul may
thought.
have had some input on that, maybe.
Yes, he changed his mind. Yeah. All right, now we get into the garbage. Because
garbage?
I
like this the best, actually.
The music's great, without a doubt, but the fact that there was really nothing interesting on there, Ain't That Peculiar, was very disappointing once we figured out that it was a Smokey Robinson song, lyrics scattered to a music track, and Time Traveler. Again, I had that. So everything else was album versions or remixes, so I don't have anything. Actually, it'll be Eric Carr, because if it's the new stuff, then the MVP on this is Eric Carr singing, regardless. So, Ken, back to you for Disc 4.
Disc 4, I picked Paul in this period of 83. He was running pretty much, the Kiss show at that time, with Gene kind of doing his side stuff. So, with Lick It Up, All Hell's Breaking Loose. I mean, if you go down the list, this is all Paul songs. All Hell's Breaking Loose, Heaven's on Fire, Get All You Can Take, Thrills in the Night, Tears Are Falling, All Night, Time Traveler, and then you have to stick in Hell or High Water in there. So you got one Gene in there. Then you got Crazy Nights, Reason to Live, Let's Put the X in Sex, Hide Your Heart. Of course, you mentioned Ain't That Peculiar, which was cool to have on that with Eric. But and then Silver Spoon Forever. So on this whole disc of 16 songs, Gene appears once, Eric appears once. It's all Paul. I gave it to Paul.
Sounds like a reason not to give it to Paul. Mark.
Maybe.
Well, I mean, Ken exactly nailed it. This disc is completely Paul Stanley. I mean, every single song on here is his, except for those two that you mentioned. And I mean, really, if you think about it, it makes total sense, because I mean, there really isn't that much great Gene stuff to pick from during this time period, I don't think. So, why wouldn't you, have it this stacked? I mean, yeah, maybe you could have put a couple of songs off of the Lick It Up album for Gene on here.
Definitely.
But other than that, I mean, there isn't that much great material on here. So, like for him, I mean, from that time period. But it was interesting that they picked the demo for Eric, and that they put the single version of Forever rather than the album one. I don't know if there's any real grandiose version of it, because I only have that cassette copy of that single version of it. So I've never really actually heard it, because my cassette deck is screwed, so I never got to play it to hear it. But I'm guessing it's nothing that hugely different in sound, so why not just put the album version on there, right? But yeah, I think it's definitely disc 4 is Paul Stanley. They should have just put his face on the front, and that's it.
I gotta say though that, and you brought up something about Gene, is like he used Hell or High Water on here. I mean, it definitely could have used Not for the Innocent on here. That and Trial by Fire. Those are really.
It's like a glove.
Good. Even if it's like, yeah, it's like, I don't know. Maybe Paul was, more.
My songs go
controlling these. He goes, the '80s was my period. Screw Gene. I'm gonna use his crappy songs from Crazy Nights.
There would be no Kiss.
So.
83 to 90. I mean, it was.
It was
mostly Paul.
There's some misses, definitely misses of songs on the box set, not just here, but other parts.
Yeah. All right, moving on to the final disc. Alex Coletti. because there's stuff from Unplugged wins my MVP for this disc. Mark?
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because when we did the albums themselves and we went to Unplugged, I actually picked Alex as well for that, just because I thought that his involvement in it, if it wasn't for him, there probably wouldn't have been no Unplugged, album like that, and there would have been no reunion. So, but given that this is much more than just the Unplugged material on here, I had to pull the Ken and give it to the whole band here again, because I think that this is another period where there was a little bit more reunification. They brought in Eric Singer. Bruce was still with them during the Revenge time. All the stuff that they did during the what's that album? I can't believe that album is slipping my mind. The grunge album there.
Carnival of Souls.
Carnival of Souls. There you go. Yeah. See how forgetful that record is. That one. That's a lot of involvement, obviously, with Bruce and Eric Singer. And Gene, probably much more than Paul. But again, I think that there was some. There was more tightness, I think, amongst them as a group when those guys were involved. Now, of course, we still have the songs at the end where we have Within, Into the Void, Psycho Circus, which is again an album steeped with, controversy and stuff like that, right? But then you end out with the Shout It Out Loud and Rock and Roll Night from the reunion time period. So I don't know. I found it very difficult to give it to one individual here, so I just gave it to the whole band. I mean, this is probably the only other time period where these guys were in some sort of unified quest for, success.
Yeah, it's strange that they put Nothing Can Keep Me From You on this again with how badly it was received, and Nothing from Alive 3.
It's like...
I mean, no live Eric Singer other than Unplugged. I mean, that's kind of a shame that album's ignored, and Nothing Can Keep Me From You is even acknowledged. All right, Ken.
Yeah, nothing can keep me from you. Well, it's again, I think Paul may have had a lot of input on this box set because that's one of his songs that he, co-wrote, I believe, right? But I agree with Mark. Kiss as the band, I couldn't really pick a winner or MVP on this other than just the band, former members or the newer members actually. Well, yeah. So I think that's the only way to go with this thing. You mentioned a lot about the songs. The one thing that I think is a kind of a miss on this one is, they used "It's My Life," but it was the record from Psycho Circus period. That they were going to record for that. They must have a good version of that from when they were doing Creatures or before Creatures. And that's what I would have wanted on here. That would have been a great one. I think would be the better version of It's My Life, best version.
I've always been confused though why they never used that song to begin with. It's been on so many different things. Like, why didn't they actually just put it on a studio record?
Wendy O. Williams heard it.
She used it, but Gene always kept asking Paul to put it on a bunch of the records, and kind of they nixed it. I think he also wanted it on Crazy Nights, right? Am I right? Yeah. So
didn't King Cobra also record that one? I lose.
It sounds
King Cobra 3. I lose track. I can't think. So
yeah. Anyway, one of the misses.
Whatever. I think if they had a pristine copy of it, it would be really nice. But then again, if it didn't turn up on Gene's vault and it was essentially the same that we had out there for years, I don't know how much hope there is for a perfect copy of the original version of It's My Life. But again, it was a missed opportunity. But that whole last disc is a missed opportunity as well. All right. Now that we've gotten caught up with that box set that we left out of the last episode, we can get back to where we left off during the last episode. And that is, of course, with the 2009 album that made me so happy that it meant that Psycho Circus was not going to be the bookend to the Kiss studio experience, and the all was right in the world again. So I'm going to just start off with Andrew and Lonnie's MVPs for this. Oh, Andrew, you can't do Slash. Tommy / Gene. So no doubt he would have explained himself why he couldn't make up his mind. And Lonnie, of course, oh dear God, Gene. All right, since we're talking about Gene, that means let's move on to Ken.
Okay, yeah. Well, I agree with Lonnie. Gene was my MVP on this album because I just feel his songs were really good on this album. I like all of them a lot. Well, except one, I guess. Let me rephrase that. Russian Roulette, yeah, I know nobody's perfect, and he co-wrote with Stand with Paul, of course. But Hot and Cold's great, and but I Am an Animal. Yeah, that one is kind of, I guess, is one of his lesser songs. It's an okay song. It's not a horrible song, but it's not one of his better songs. I think maybe I'm just tired of Modern Day Delilah or something like that. Paul Stanley wrote a couple songs on here that were really good, definitely. What's the other one they do in concert?
Say yeah?
Yeah, the final song, right. So that one and Modern Day Delilah are the real good ones for him. Some of the other ones were kind of, Dangerous. It's kind of goofy. And one of them sounds like Poison, right? On this.
Yeah, Never Enough.
Never Enough. So that one was kind of like, oh, he did that already. He did something like that with Dreamin' on Psycho Circus, and Alice Cooper, Infringement, or whatever you want to call it there. So I went with Gene.
Okay. Mark?
Well, I went with Paul. As far as I'm concerned, this is Paul Stanley's album. Let's face it, the all you have to know for why I picked it was what he said before. And well, he didn't say it to anybody, but we've heard through the grapevine. Either I produced this or we're not doing it. So right there is why Paul Stanley should be the MVP, because there wouldn't be a record if it wasn't for people saying, okay, well, we're going to let Paul do it. There would be no Sonic Boom. You know it, I know it, and come on. Modern Day Delilah was the only real hit off of this record as well. So, you got to give it to him for that. Russian Roulette is okay. Yes, I know nobody's perfect. It's actually the song I don't mind from Gene. I think that's a pretty good song, actually, but I'm an Animal's terrible. That's a complete stinker, that song. And but the rest of it is not bad. They're not Paul Stanley's finest writing moments, but they're definitely more in the kind of 70s wheelhouse that they were trying to get back to than other material that they did. Definitely much more than anything off of Psycho Circus. And I'm guessing that the idea of having Tommy do When Lightning Strikes was probably his idea. We got to give you a kind of ace song, So it was probably his idea to do that, and probably his idea to give Eric a song as well. Yeah. There we go. All for the Glory, which I think is actually a pretty good song. I don't mind that song. It's a pretty good song. So I think that really, once again, Paul was the leader of the tribe here. What he said went, and that's why I kind of gave it to him.
And that's why I didn't give it to him. Because for me, the MVP of Sonic Boom is Tommy. Being unleashed finally to play all the guitar that he wanted to and be credited for on this album. He then went and picked little bits and pieces or nuances crept into his playing from every single era of Kiss. So, because there were little things, whenever I listen to this album, I hear, oh, that sounds like something off Asylum. That's something that Bruce would have done. Or, oh, that's a very AC riff right there. Mm-hmm. Or, oh, that's him trying to do Vinny, and just celebrate all of Kiss-Ray and the sonics of his guitar playing. It will always be Tommy on this album. But in terms of the songwriters, yeah, Paul wins. Come on, Modern Day Delilah is a great song, and Say Yeah is in the set to this day. So, and it would have happened without Paul. But in terms of execution. Tommy brought his A game, had clearly been playing everything from Kiss's catalog for the previous 16 years, and was ready to, it's not very original,
No.
but it celebrates the band's history beautifully, and that's why it might have been a better bookend than the one which we'll talk about next, Kiss Monster. And let's go to Lonnie. Oh, no. Sorry, I'm on the wrong one. Lonnie selected Tommy as his MVP for Monster. Andrew selected Gene, and Ken didn't. Hater.
I did not. Actually, I'm thinking about it, but I want to say I chose Paul, but, I know there was an interview recently of Tommy kind of saying that, he thought the production on Monster was not good. And which everyone has, all of us have agreed, about.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Brick walled stuff, and it's horrible. So I don't know why I'm choosing Paul, because he had to prove that. Now I think about it, but I'll just stick with Paul because of some songs like Hell or High Water, and definitely Freak, great song, and then was it Down Below? That one, Take Me Down Below, and is that the one what's the
Long
one
Way
that's
Down.
Long Way Down.
Really, really good.
That's that one, based on Long Way Down and Freak. Those two songs really is what swayed me. The Gene songs on here, I like Gene, are solid, but there's something about it where there's something missing from his songs. I don't know what it is. They're just not true to himself. I think he's just writing what maybe someone's expecting, or the crowd is expecting, the fans are expecting. I don't know, or Paul's expecting. I just think there's something missing from his songs. It's not varied enough. That he usually is a lot more varied between his songs on any given album. So anyway, it's not. Again, they're not bad. It's something missing. I don't know what it is, but I gave it to Paul.
Okay. Mark?
Well, the funny thing is I picked Tommy for this one. And a lot of it is for the same reasons that you said, Julian, for Sonic Boom. But except I don't get the feeling on Sonic Boom that he was let free out of his cage. I always kind of had the feeling that you had Tommy there, and you kind of had Paul hovering over top and going, okay, show me what you're going to play there. No, I don't know. No, that lick there. No. I really think that he was hovering over him a lot, because he made it even sound. Don't remember where I read this or heard this, but there was, I don't know if I read this somewhere, but something about the fact that they were even debating whether to let Tommy do all the solos on that record, and that he kind of almost made it sound like that he was happy that he was able to do all the solos on that record. Now, I don't know if I misread that or if I read that somewhere and it was not, I misread it again, but I think that Paul for that record was really on him for the solos. I don't think that he just said, yeah, you go ahead there, Tommy, you do whatever you want to play. No, I don't think he did that on this record. I think he did it on Monster. I think by that point he was like, yeah, okay, you know what? I trust you now. You can do whatever you want on the solos. Because I think the solos are much more Tommy-ish in the sense that I don't get as much of the throwback on that record as much as you do on Sonic Boom. I think that he was able to run a little bit more wilder on this one. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that he was sitting there and videotaping him and was staring at the fretboard the whole time he was playing or something like that. But I think that he was a little bit more cautious because this was the big rumored comeback back to the 70s thing, and I think Paul wanted to make sure that everything was just so before it came out. And I think by the time they did Monster, I think they were comfortable with their return and comfortable with making another studio record. So I think that he was let go much more off the chain on that record.
That's interesting, and that would be a really good question to ask Tommy, because I totally disagree with kind of the perception that Paul was micromanaging him, because I think you'd lose all of the fluidity and kind of the organic sound of those solos. I think they would feel forced if he'd been henpecked into doing it, and they really do sound like someone who's been playing the catalog for 16 years going in.
Oh yeah.
I think he would have been pretty well dialed into what Paul wanted and delivering it. But I do agree that there's a vast difference between his solos on that album and Monster, which is why he's my MVP on this album as well. Not only the amount of material, this is his Carnival of Souls. Like Bruce's contributions on Carnival of Souls are all over the place. He is all over this album on, the songwriting as well. But now the guitar is very much more, who is Tommy Thayer in Kiss? And it's almost like he's deliberately not going back to the same way that they were approached, the guitar and solos were approached on Sonic Boom, and instead trying to define who he is as a member of the band for himself. And as a result, he comes up with just as solid lead work, if not more so, for that reason. So it's the more honest album. Now, is the album ruined by Paul Stanley's production? The brick walling is not Paul Stanley's fault, other than it being okayed to ever go into production afterwards. But there are elements of the production which are just very unappealing and do not sound good to this day. So I think there's a combination of mastering errors and... again, I think the industry at that point had kind of taken that dial all the way to the left into the blood zone. And I would love this one to be remixed and remastered for re-release with a better cover, because the songs on here, we've mentioned Long Way Down. The first time I heard that, Paul Stanley could still write, as people will hear with Soundstation, he can still write really good songs. And that's evident. But I think Gene also did dial in a couple of good ones. Yeah, there was more recycling going on, but Eat Your Heart Out is just quintessential Gene. But stuff like Shout Mercy and what was it? The Devil Is Me.
Devil Is Me.
Just, we're not Gene enough. That's almost songs that have too much influence from Paul coming through and kind of neuter demon. So,
Exactly.
Tommy, on these last two albums, I think his role within the band and keeping it vibrant and alive, and I wish I could say more about Eric Singer and his contributions, but the drums just don't sound fantastic on either of these albums, which is unfortunate because I think he's very much in the pocket on Sonic Boom. I find this one a little bit less endearing, just because the overall sonics of it are not very appealing for digging into well, you don't really get good separation between the instrumentation, so it makes it hard to do. All right, we have one album left in our MVP battle, and we are not doing an MVP of MVPs. Forget it. We're going to get back to a normal topic next week because Daniel is going to be around. So, Kiss Rocks Vegas. We'll finish up with Lonnie and Andrew again. Andrew went with Tommy, so I can see why. I totally see why. Lonnie picked Kiss, which leads straight into Ken.
Yeah, so like Lonnie, similar to Lonnie, I picked Kiss, but I also picked Doc McGee, because he's the one that I'm sure worked it out and got that deal with the Vegas run that they had out there for that set of concerts. So I could have just said Doc, but I kind of split it between Kiss and Doc. I mean, Kiss did a great job during that stint there in Vegas, and it's all good, actually. I mean, I couldn't give it to one person in the band. They all were doing a great job. It turned out great. The record's good. The video's real good, of course, with the differences in the stage and the other things going on in the concert with the screens and so on. So it was really good. But Doc had to be included because he's the one that sets this stuff up, these shows up, like this one, the Vegas, and then Dubai or whatever. He's the one that gets these deals for them. So Kiss and Doc are my picks.
Nicely. Well considered as always. We'd be shocked if it wasn't. Mark?
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree. That was well thought out there, Ken. I mean, with that said, I think Doc McGee could be named the MVP for a lot of the 2000s. I mean, he pretty much steered that ship for a lot of it, later on, as far as business goes, but not musically. But the interesting thing about this record, as I was looking through it just now, it's listed executive producer Doc McGee, and production is credited to Tommy Thayer on this record for some reason. I don't know if he is actually the producer of this record or not, but I actually picked Tommy Thayer as my MVP for this record, and again, I kind of gave it that reasoning for what I talked about before. I think that he's very well placed in the band now. He's comfortable. You can tell it now when you watch him performing. I mean, whenever he does even his solo sections now, I think of it less as him trying to redo an Ace thing, and I'm kind of looking at it more as something that he is now in control of a little bit more. And I just find that when I listen to him playing the songs live, it's very comfortable. Of course, when you first join the band, you instantly have to start doing that comparison with how much of the Ace thing will he do, how much of this will he do, and I don't think of that anymore with him at all when I watch him live. I mean, Kiss Rocks Vegas is probably one of the things that I've watched, the last, I don't know, in the last 6 months. I probably watched it a couple of times just because I was curious to rewatch it again. I mean, these Las Vegas kind of productions are always great because you don't have to tear it down and build it back up in another city. It's just constructed once really well, and every night you have a fantastic performance because you don't have to worry about, something going wrong because you keep tearing it apart and putting it back up again. So I think that Tommy at this point is really enjoying his time with Kiss. I think that, I wouldn't be surprised at all if he actually is the full audio producer of this thing, because I think the production of it sounds pretty good. I mean, it's not the best sounding live album I've ever heard, but I've definitely heard much, much worse than this, I mean, alive too. I mean, that sounds like a Beatles audience over a Kiss concert, it's like, oh my God, I can't stand listening to it. But I think that he did a great job. I'm really, I don't want to sound like I'm his dad or something. I'm really proud of Tommy, but I am proud of him as a guitar player, that he stepped into a difficult place with a band that's much loved in Americana, especially. And, he has done a great job. And I think he has nothing to be but proud of what he's done with Kiss throughout all this time.
That was like a Paul Stanley anthem being written live on air. No, that's really nice sentiment. For me, though, it's Paul on this, because he was the ringmaster at this show, and obviously I'll always be connected with it, having attended, and I was focused on watching Paul. I mean, I try and watch all of them throughout, and I put Kiss as my MVP for it, but I think thinking back, I just see Paul still giving everything to the show. The band was really powerful, but again, it is mostly Paul's songs and performances on this. He wins because I finally got to hear Tears Are Falling live. So for that reason alone, for me, that makes him my MVP. And just, thinking back to the laser lights of it, I can still see it in my mind's eye. And Creatures of the Night, and Detroit Rock City, and I even got Deuce, from Gene. So, I will always have fond memories of this album, and I hope before the end, we get some more. I'm looking forward to Dubai, and when we do finally get that final product, that'll be really interesting. I've not, done any playback of that since, even though I do have a copy of the file. I haven't gone back to it because I want to wait now and see what I think of it when it is the full release version, either audio-wise and, all the little things that we were picking up. It'll be interesting to see who we think, if we even talk about it, is the MVP of that as a release. And I know one of you said, oh, we have to do the Hysteria box set. What? No. That's just silly.
It was a joke, more or less.
Okay, thank goodness. I'm relieved because I seriously couldn't think of anything to do with that. All right. MVPs, that's who we think. We're done. That's the whole catalog, or enough of the catalog that we're going to talk about. Who's your MVPs for each disc of the box set, and then the remaining catalog albums through what has currently been released? More is coming. Who knows what this year will bring us? You've already had surprises like the Shout It Out Loud single, and who knows what there may still be yet to come as release date shift and change. Obviously, the From the Soundboard is getting pushed. It looks like Paul's Soul Station is coming. We will have to do a show on that inevitably, which will be kind of interesting. Who wants to do a show on Soul Station?
I'll do it. I'm getting a copy. So
yeah, I'm getting a copy too.
Vinyl. Yeah.
It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to compare with the original versions.
Yeah, I'm hoping for a 40th anniversary of The Elder. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, I
You honestly think they're going to do that?
I don't know. I don't know if they're going to do it, but I hope they do something.
We shall see. All right, that's it for now. So from Mark, from Ken, myself, and our absentee friends, we will see you next time. Thank you for spending time listening to the KissFAQ podcast today. All sales are final. There are no refunds. If you'd like, look us up on Facebook or come over to the KissFAQ message board and discuss the topic we've broadcast today. Don't forget to rate us on iTunes, Spreaker, or wherever you've listened to the show. We hope you'll join us again.